Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today's guest is a well known international Bruce Lee memorabilia collector. His collection has been seen all over the world, especially at the Hong Kong Heritage Museum in Hong Kong. He was featured in the recent Bruce Lee documentary Be Water and is recognized as a consistent member and supporter of the Bruce Lee Foundation. I would like to welcome my guest on the Nucleus Initiative, Jeff Chinn. Hello, Jeff.
Hi, Vincent.
How you doing today?
All right.
Good. It's been a while since I've seen you.
Yeah. Well, we've bumped into each other at many Bruce Lee gatherings.
Right?
Uh,
Yep.
since your brother lives out here in San Francisco, there were several times where you would visit him, and then of course drop by and to my Bruce Lee room.
Oh
And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. How long have you known each other, Jeff?
I think we met at I would say 2009.
2009. That's
Because
right.
I remember that was the first time that I attended one of the Jeet Kune Do seminars for
Oh yeah, that's right. In LA.
yeah, yeah.
Oh right. Okay.
And
Yeah.
then
Whew, that's been a while.
yeah, and
That's
although I take Wing Chun, the stuff that they were showing was very similar to
to Wing
Wing
Chun.
Chun.
Okay. Okay, Jeff. Let's see here. Now, the reason why I wanted to have you on my podcast is because I know for a fact that Bruce Lee has been uh, a great focal point in your life, right? So tell me this: when was the first time that you seen Bruce Lee?
The first time I saw Bruce Lee was back in 1966 during the Green Hornet.
Mm,
Um, of course, back then to see Chinese on American TV was quite rare, and to see a Chinese on TV being the hero, that's even more rare. But my first exposure was with Bruce as Kato, and I had been watching Batman and Robin before then, and I really liked that show. And then here you are with Greenhorn and Kato, and here's Kato doing his martial arts, and he was the one that drove the Black Beauty, and he pushed all the buttons that fired all the rockets,
right.
and I can honestly say that it was Kato that saved Greenhorn's butt like half of the time.
Well, you know what? All of his fight scene in the Green Hornet was not like a one blow that's it, but like more efficient, more or quick.
Mhm.
And I felt that that's how most likely he fought like that in real life. Because in Enter the Dragon, it's more choreographed and it's also very simple. But I felt that in the Green Hornet, Bruce Lee as Kato, wow, he was really electrifying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one thing I wanted to mention about the Green Hornet. Later on, when Bruce did his movies in Hong Kong, and he was very successful, and when people would ask him about the Green Hornet and his role as Kato, he would always downplay it, saying that he did a terrible job and this and that. But in my opinion, and in the opinion of many Bruce Lee fans, the Green Hornet was very important in Bruce Lee's career because although Bruce was a child actor, he had never performed martial arts on screen.
Right.
Um, he learned doing the fight scenes in the Green Hornet that he had to slow himself down in
Yes.
order for people to appreciate the movements. And because the fact that the Green Hornet was filmed mostly at nighttime, and then you see Bruce Lee as Kato wearing all black,
Hmm.
fighting these villains at night, you have a hard enough time with that alone, seeing what he's doing. So I think when you said his fighting was different in as Kato than Enter the Dragon or whatever, is because he was probably using real moves, not
Yeah,
movie stuff.
right.
And
That's
then, yeah. So I guess he figured that real stuff doesn't look as cool as movie stuff.
the way that Bruce portrayed his martial art, the way that he moved was it was just amazing. Just at that time, it was just like it was what 1966 that
Hmm.
the Green Hornet came out. So with that in turn, what impact did Bruce Lee have on your life?
Um, to tell you the truth, even though I saw Bruce Lee as Kato in the Green Hornet, I I was, I was a little boy at the time, and I only concentrated when he had the costume on.
Oh, okay.
When he didn't have it on, I didn't really pay attention. I just watched when he did the fighting and driving the Black Beauty and this and that. So technically, I was not a quote unquote Bruce Lee fan. I was more like a Kato fan.
Interesting.
And when I was first introduced to the Hong Kong movie Bruce Lee, I didn't put two and two together, and I didn't realize that Bruce Lee was the one that played Kato. In the 60s, that Bruce Lee was punchy, but he wasn't as cut as
Right,
in the movies in Hong
right.
Kong.
Because in Hong Kong, especially when he was filming Into the Dragon, he was trying
Mm,
to look very cut up. He was taking diuretics, just to sweat all the fat out, and especially in Hong Kong. You've been to Hong Kong.
yeah,
It's really humid and it's hot.
yeah.
Every now and then or more than ever, it rains. Just imagine during the 70s, I'm not sure how the air conditioning system worked during that time. I'm pretty sure it wasn't working as it is like it is now, right? So
Well,
so
when I'm sure you've seen pictures on the set of the Game of Death. You don't see any air conditioners.
oh
You
yeah,
big fans.
oh yeah,
It's,
yeah,
it's just basically going to blow hot air at
oh
you.
yeah. So was there any instances that Bruce Lee helped you during your life?
Um, yeah, there's a story that I always like to share with people, that he made a deep impact in my life. Not only the fact that he made me proud to be Chinese,
Hmm.
but he helped me during the darkest period of my young life. This is in the summer of 1974 that my dad said that we're moving, and then I said, why are we moving? I like it here in San Francisco
Right.
because I had a lot of friends, and everything was great. Um, when I started going to junior high, in the eighth grade, after we moved, I had found out that I was basically the only Chinese in my grade,
Mm.
and I got picked on, teased, and this and that, because of my Chinese heritage. And it got to the point where it affected me physically. So my mom took me to the doctor because she would notice that many times I would eat a meal and I would have stomach aches. So the doctor examined me and found out that I had a bleeding ulcer.
Oh boy.
So, for a kid, 13 years old to have an ulcer, it's not very common. Got to the point where I was just really depressed. The story I always share is when I was in my bedroom, I was looking at the poster of Bruce Lee that hung there, and tears were coming down to my face. And I looked at the poster, and it was almost like Bruce Lee was talking to me, saying, "It's okay, Jeff, because I'm Chinese, and I went through the same thing that you are."
Right.
And I told Bruce that if you help me out during this situation, I'm gonna pay you back. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now.
Yeah. Since I have you here on the podcast, let's talk about your collection, right? So what was your first Bruce Lee memorabilia?
My first Bruce Lee item was issue of a popular Hong Kong magazine called New Martial Hero.
Okay.
And it was in 1972, neighborhood friend of mine brought it over and said, Jeff, you got to tell your dad to take you to a Bruce Lee movie. and and I said, who's Bruce Lee? So they brought over a magazine and they said, this is Bruce Lee. And on the cover was Bruce Lee and his buddy, Unicorn Chan.
Yes.
And I must have said the stupidest question ever. I said, which one is Bruce Lee? So of course my friend said, the guy that's not wearing the shirt with all the muscles, you idiot.
Oh my goodness.
So I said, all right, that magazine looks cool. Can I, trade you something for that magazine? So this way I can show it to my dad and ask him, can you take me to a Bruce Lee movie? So I think I traded a couple of comic books because I too collected comic books back then. So New Martial Hero number 72 was my official very first Bruce Lee item.
Nice.
I would bring the magazine to my dad and I said, Dad, can you take me to a Bruce Lee movie? And he said, where's it playing? I said, yeah, in San Francisco, Chinatown. And he said, he didn't even have to think. He said, no. And I said, why? He said, because those theaters are filthy. I go, I don't care. He says, do you want fleas to jump on you?
Oh my
and mice to run down your feet or whatever? I said, I don't care. I'll wear a jacket and I'll zip up and so every week my friend would say, did he take you yet? Did he take you yet? And I would say no. So it wasn't until 1973 when we released the Bruce Lee movies into American theater.
Okay.
Of course, the first movie that was released was in March of 73. It was Five Fingers of Death.
Yes.
Yeah.
That they did that too also on the East Coast. That was the first movie that came out in New York I read about.
Yeah. So that was my first Kung Fu movie.
Oh, okay.
Because I remember I cut out the ad for Five Fingers of Death and I would show my dad. And I said, can we go watch this movie? And he goes, where's it playing? I go, in a downtown theater where it's clean. And then, I was keeping my fingers crossed, but he actually said yes. And from then on, he would take me almost every three weeks or so, because back then during the Kung Fu craze, they would have a new Kung Fu movie every 3 weeks or so.
Right.
And those were some of the best times of my life, spending with my dad, watching Kung Fu movies. And of course, the second movie to be released in American theater was Fists of Fury,
right.
which was the original title is The Big Boss. Mm-hmm. And okay, here's the difference. When I saw Five Fingers of Death, it starred this guy named Lo Li. When he would fight, he would leap in the air and everything, and people in the audience were like laughing. And then me as a kid, I go, wow, this is cool. Why is everyone laughing, making fun of him? But when I saw Fist of Fury and Bruce Lee was jumping up, people were like clapping, because when Bruce did it, it was cool.
Right.
Yeah, big difference.
So that movie that came out maybe about 2 years ago, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then they had a character or someone played Bruce Lee in that role. And have you seen that movie?
Yeah.
Okay. So I actually filmed with my phone while in the movie theater. I
Hmm.
know I wasn't supposed to do that, but I wanted to see it for myself and then review it later on. So when Bruce was fighting Brad Pitt's character, and before they fought, Bruce did that whoa, all that stuff, and then people were laughing, and I was kind of upset because I'm like, Bruce is Bruce. Number one, Bruce would never do that in the fight, never.
Hmm.
And number two, he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't pick a fight in a Hollywood studio because you'll get in trouble, you'll get fired, if you hurt the other actor. But then I'm thinking, all right, it's a movie, right? So that just reminded me of what you just said, that especially around this time when people don't know who Bruce is, and when they get introduced to Bruce and when they see that movie, that's their first impression of Bruce, because that character in that movie was more, you know, flamboyant, arrogant. And I didn't want that type of impression to be left with the audience who was seeing Bruce as the first time, even though it wasn't Bruce Lee.
I'll have to add that when I was in the theater watching that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and there was actually a young Asian American couple next to me,
Mm-hmm.
and when the Bruce character got thrown into the car by Brad Pitt, when everyone else in the audience was laughing, they were laughing just as hard. And then I was saying to myself, I hope this is not their only impression of Bruce, because
Right.
you had mentioned that first impression, this might be first and only impression, and that's very very strong.
When is Bruce Lee really going to have a time of day where it's not like he's viewed as just a fighter? I mean, yes, he was an efficient fighter, but like he's more than that. And I'm always waiting for an announcement where, oh, now it's time to have a real deal Bruce Lee biopic. And I know they announced it a few years ago, but then it just never materialized. I mean, that movie Bruce Lee, My Brother,
Hmm.
kind of, sort of, you know, goes well with the timeline, but I believe in the beginning of that movie, they said it snowed on the day that Bruce Lee was born in San Francisco. I'm like, wow, that's that's very legendary right there.
Yeah, well, hopefully in our lifetime they come out with something good
Yeah,
that that we can look at and say, yeah, finally.
yeah. Unlike that movie, Birth of the Dragon. Oh my goodness.
Well, I always tell people that all right, even though stuff like Birth of the Dragon comes out, and it's 90% fiction,
Yeah,
um, I would say that if it helps to get people interested in Bruce Lee,
yeah,
then okay, because someone could watch Birth of the Dragon and said, "Hey, I've never seen a real Bruce Lee movie before, but after watching this, I'm going to check out
right.
one of them."
There's a couple. Even my students, they ask me like, "Have you seen Birth of the Dragon?" I'm like, "Yes, I have." They say, "Is that any of it real?" I'm like, "No, it isn't," because they portrayed Wong Jack Man as a Shaolin monk, which he wasn't.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they said, "Oh, did was it true that that Wong Jack Man and Bruce Lee fought for 20 minutes?" I'm like, "No, they didn't. 20 minutes is pretty long. I mean,
Even
you
for a
know,
movie.
even for a movie, I mean, by the time 20 minutes is over, someone would have been dead already." But you're right, because when people ask me about that movie, they get interested, and they get interested in the art. For me, I really don't mind talking about Bruce's history, and setting the record straight. When I watched Dragon, the Bruce Lee story back in the 90s, and I thought everything in it was real. And then when I started Jeet Kune Do and I asked Sifu Richard Torres about the movie, he was like, "Oh, he never was in a dungeon fighting for the rights of teaching whoever he wanted, and he wasn't kicked in the back, and he didn't actually really make the book when he was, you know, in bed, and the book came out when he was alive. And
Sometimes for certain people, it is a good thing because
yeah.
in Dragon the Bruce Lee story, they actually said that he went to San Francisco State, and I went to San Francisco State, so I said, all right.
We went to the same college.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep.
All right.
Oh, there's one more thing I want to share about Birth of the Dragon.
Sure.
When I went to the special showing in San Francisco,
Okay.
my wife Julie was trying to take a picture of me next to the big poster.
Okay.
But there was this old Chinese guy, kind of blocking it because he was standing there. And then I told him, can you move over just for a second so my wife can take a photo of me? And I found out that the old guy blocking was Wong Jackman.
That is hilarious, Jeff.
Yeah. So I said, excuse me, can I take a picture with you? So he goes, sure. Yeah, he was very friendly, and when it's one of those situations before you ever meet someone, but you've heard all these stories,
right?
You picture in your head, but here's this humble, quiet Chinese man, and that was
wow.
man. So.
That is hilarious. Excuse me, can you move? Like, oh, Wong Jackman. Oh, I didn't know you were there. Oh my goodness.
Whoops.
So how did you get involved with the Nucleus back in the 90s? Now, the Nucleus is the organization formed by Linda. How did you get involved by that? Linda Lee, Bruce's wife.
Okay. I guess the first time I got involved with them is when they had their second meeting in San Francisco. The first meeting was in Seattle, and
right.
that in that meeting they had more members because Dan Inasana was actually in that meeting. So when they had the second meeting in San Francisco, I was told that after the meeting that some of the Nucleus members wanted to come visit my Bruce Lee room.
Oh, cool.
So wow. So I said, like who? They said like Linda, Ted Wong, Alan Joe, people like that. So I had written on my calendar, Linda and Nucleus visit, and every day I would X out that closer.
Counting down the days.
Yeah,
counting down the days.
Counting down the days. So when it was that time, I went to the meeting in San Francisco, and it was basically after they had the meeting that they were like taking pictures and stuff.
Okay.
And I said, wow, that's that's a lot of Nucleus members, the original students of Bruce Lee.
Right.
But I wasn't, I was pretty sure that only some of them would be coming to my house. So it was Ted Wong that told me, Jeff, we're gonna go visit James Lee's grave in Oakland because he just got a brand new headstone.
Oh.
I said, oh, all right. And he said, and afterwards we're gonna come to your house. And then Ted said, by the way, can you give me a ride? So I said, sure.
Why not? I'll give you a ride.
Yeah. So I think it was during that ride that I really got to know Ted, because it was it was quite a drive across the Bay Bridge. They had some traffic,
right?
And he was telling me stories about Bruce and everything. And I had met Ted one time previously at the Superior Gallery auction.
Okay.
Because he was there and he wanted to also bid on something. And I at that time I said, well, what are you gonna bid on? He said he wanted to bid on Bruce's address book. And I said, why is the address book so important to you? He says, because it has the names of all these people that he wants to try to contact.
Oh.
This is, before the nucleus or whatever.
Mhm.
And at the end of the auction, of course, I went up to him and I said, congratulations, because I saw that he was the winning bidder
Oh,
for the address book.
interesting.
Yeah.
Now, how was that conversation in the car? Was there anything you talked about?
Oh yeah. He said, because he knew that I was most interested in Bruce Lee movies. So he said that he had visited Bruce about I think it was during Game of Death.
Okay.
Him and Herb Jackson visited Hong Kong.
Right.
And he said that he was at Bruce's house, and Bruce, of course we know it's always so hot and humid there. Bruce had to take a shower. So Ted said Bruce came out of the shower and he just had a towel wrapped around him.
Right.
Then Bruce looked so skinny, or not the way Ted remembered him when
Right.
in the bar and everything. So Ted was a little bit concerned. He goes, Bruce, you're looking a bit thin here. Are you losing some of your power? And then Bruce said, here, hold this. And then Bruce went, wham! and then Ted flew across the room.
I guess not.
Yeah. So we arrived at the tombstone of James Lee, and then we all paid our respects.
Mm-hmm.
And and it was kind of funny because it's almost like people were telling Linda what we're going to do next. So after the visiting the gravesite, Linda said, where are we going now? And they said, oh, to Jeff's house. And then she wasn't sure or whatever. They said, just get in the car, and then we're right back to San Francisco.
Right.
So so that visit was like the royal family, and I remember some of my friends would give me stacks and stacks of books or photos for Linda
to sign. Wow.
But the biggest thing I remember from that visit is how friendly and down to earth Linda was.
Mm.
Because a lot of people that have never met her would say, wow, this is Bruce's wife. I would feel so nervous to approach her or speak to her, but she made me feel comfortable in my own home.
Yeah, that's the same thing. I too, like whenever the second time that I met Ted Wong was a seminar that Sifu Richard Torres he hosted for Ted Wong.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're all in the gym and we're not starting it, but then everybody's stretching, and I see Ted Wong like against the wall just stretching, and it's just kind of like everybody was surrounding him, like just watching, just like a fishbowl. So I was like, I'm thinking in my head, like no one wants to go up to him or talk to him, or it's like so I went up to Ted, and then we started talking. I didn't talk to him anything about Bruce. I wanted to get to know him. He told me he was in the army. He was a parachuter. He had a just an ordinary job, environmental analyst. He loved coming to New York and stuff like that. And then I was just like you. I was very fortunate to speak to a person who was connected to Bruce and made me feel comfortable as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm pretty sure everybody asked him about Bruce and all this other stuff like that. I just kind of wanted to talk to him as just a human being.
Yeah. That's what I've noticed sometimes when we have these Bruce Lee gatherings, and some of these fans have never met some of the Bruce Lee people, and it's almost like all they want to do is just take a photo and get a autograph,
get a signature, yeah,
but never have a normal conversation.
Yeah.
Just shoot the breeze or whatever. Yeah. And I'm thinking they would appreciate that more. I think the worst example that I could give is at the second Nucleus gathering in Los Angeles.
Okay.
During the banquet, Jason Scott Lee, who played Bruce Lee in Dragon the Bruce's Story,
Yep.
was sitting there enjoying the speeches that were given, and there's a fan just crouched in front of him, taking photos of Jason, sitting there trying to listen to the speech, and then you could tell from Jason's face that really ticked him off,
Oh boy.
because this fan was just treating him like a object.
Yeah. Like a fish in a fishbowl, just
Yeah.
looking at him and all this other stuff.
Case in point, when the Nucleus came to my house, for some reason, half of them knew about the Ted Wong doll.
Oh yeah, that's right. You showed me
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah, and then I said, how do these people know about the Ted Wong doll? Because this is way before Facebook or anything like
Right.
that. But apparently they wanted me to take it out to show them.
Right.
So I took it out, and then everyone was laughing so hard. And then I'm sure Ted's personality. He's very quiet,
Yeah.
and he rarely jokes around. But he grabbed the doll from me, and he ripped off his glasses, and he goes, "I look better." Yeah.
Oh wow. Now that's really good memories that you have.
Yeah.
That's
Those are memories, not some signed photo or
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. So tell me, how did your collection end up in the Hong Kong Heritage Museum?
Well, I guess they found out about me. I guess because as a collector, I'm kind of up there.
Right.
So this what happened is they sent me a letter from Hong Kong, and I read the letter, and it said, dear Jeff, we're opening a Bruce Lee exhibit. We would like your help in of you loaning some of your collection to our exhibit, and then they actually stated that it would be at least for a year or two. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, first it's overseas,
Yeah.
in Hong Kong, and then I was thinking, okay, I've never heard of the Hong Kong Heritage Museum. Are they safe, or I had no idea. And then being the dummy that I am, I put the letter to the side, and then things piled up on top of it.
Oh no.
And I forgot about it. So because I didn't respond, they took the next best step, and they contacted super collector Perry Lee. And then Perry, I wouldn't say that he's more trusting than I am, but he said yes.
Okay.
And so Perry got to go to the grand opening in 2013 with Shannon and everyone, and I'm saying to myself, wow, I missed the golden opportunity. But it was actually better that I wasn't in the first year of displaying at the Hong Kong Heritage Museum,
Right.
because their plan was to have a section called the Collector's Corner.
Right.
And the original plan was to have a different collector every year.
Okay.
So Perry started in 2013, and he had his Green Hornet collection there. And they liked it to the point that they extended it to a second year. And then I would ask Perry in the meantime, is everything going smoothly? Because I want to get a feel of how the Hong Kong Heritage Museum people were. And he said, yeah, everything's fine, everything's insured. So Hong Kong Heritage Museum wrote me another letter. This time I responded right away, and I said yes. So this is in 2015.
Okay.
And the neat thing about it is that they wanted to not just show stuff, from Jeff Chinn's collection. They heard my tour when I was giving a tour of my room,
Hmm.
that I tend to share stories for each object or each special object. And the curator said that we're going to make it that it the whole exhibit will tell your story. Each piece has a story to
Mm.
tell. And he said, all right, I'll help um, however I can. And and that exhibit became so successful that they extended it 1, 2, 3 years. So it was 4 years total
Wow.
that my collection was at the Hong Kong Heritage Museum.
Wow. Now, tell me your experience going there, seeing your collection displayed.
Well, I mean, they said that, Jeff, we don't want to send you pictures before you get here. We want you to see it in person when
Wow.
for the first time. So so I didn't know what to expect, how they were gonna pull this off, but what they did blew my mind,
Yeah.
and it was just just so like a dream come true, because they actually took this photo of me that I took in 1993, where I took a fisheye lens,
Hmm.
and took a picture of my room, and they actually blew it up like life size.
Is it the one where you're in the middle and you're sitting with all your magazines on the floor?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, yes, yes, that one I saw. Now, when I saw that, I was actually really proud. I was like, when I went to the Hong Kong Museum and then I saw that big poster, I'm like, that's Jeff. I'm very proud of this guy.
yeah. Because when I give tours, when I'm in Hong Kong, I would I would not say who I am, whatever, and then the people on the tour would say, "Hey, isn't that you?" So I said, "Yeah, that's the 1993 version."
This is the 2015 version here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It, it's been visited by millions of people.
Oh
So,
yeah. Yeah.
well, they don't charge admission. So,
That's good because I mean I would still pay anyway. I mean this is like especially with a museum with that much artifacts, especially what Linda donated, and I believe there's a Ted Wong certificate in there by Bruce that's displayed there. I what's his name? Lewis from Hong Kong. I think he had that certificate and donated or had them display that certificate, and it's still there. But only one of the things besides your collection, of course, Jeff, one of the things, artifacts that was there that I was really, really looking forward to see, and I knew it was there, was Bruce Lee's fighting method, Kung Fu jacket.
oh yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
was there, and I was like, this is it. This is, I mean, there's a lot of other Bruce Lee artifacts that I've seen. It's like, Bruce Lee's Onitsuka shoes. Okay, he used them, whatever. But this one, especially when you're a Jeet Kune Do practitioner,
Yeah, yeah.
especially when you see something like a material of clothing that's so iconic, and even if it's just plain black with just buttons on it, from a book that you've been reading ever since you started training in Jeet Kune Do,
Yeah.
and you see it right in front of you in a glass case, I'm like, this is it. And you see the boxing sneakers that he had, and
Mhm.
there was the jump rope, and I'm like, and I'm thinking, why can't I take a picture here? Because you're not supposed to take a picture. And you know
Yep.
what? I didn't care. Took my camera, looked around, took a couple pictures up and down. I, I'm sorry, but it was right there in front of my face, and it's something that, I, even though I went there the second time, I was like, I don't know if next time I'm gonna be here. So
Yeah,
that's why,
yeah.
even the first time that I went there, I'm like, I can't take a picture, and then I regretted it, and then I never didn't think I was going to go back to Hong Kong ever again until my Sifu asked me to go with him, and then I went. I'm like, okay, when I
Well,
see it, I'm taking the picture. I don't care if they kick
yeah,
me
well,
out. Oh well, I already been there already. So
yeah. So sometimes you have to weigh it. Is it worth spending a few days in jail? It
in
is.
Hong Kong jail as a
Yeah,
gay. I still have
yeah,
that picture.
yeah.
Now, let me ask you, what did you think of the documentary in the Hong Kong Museum about Bruce?
Oh, yeah. That quite a few people asked me about that because it's only shown there.
Yeah,
They're not going
very
to make.
exclusive. Yeah.
They're not going to put it on DVD or whatever.
Hmm.
But to tell you, okay, this is how I would describe that documentary. It is the first Brucey documentary that actually made me cry.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
towards the end when they had the music and they had the montage of Bruce Lee.
right.
th- then it kind of you don't plan on these things, but it just hit me. Yeah.
Yeah. First time I saw that documentary, and from beginning to end, I'm like, this is very well put together. Even my teacher, he loved it too. So that's something that, and especially with his opinion, he's seen all the documentaries as well.
Mhm.
And once he saw it, he's like, this is really good.
I think one special thing about it is that they interview people that normally don't get interviewed
Yeah.
about. See, it's a lot of Hong Kong people that you would never know who they were.
Yeah.
Some of them would share small stories, but a small story doesn't mean that it's not interesting or not important.
What is your favorite Bruce Lee artifact that you own?
It's the blue silk kung fu suit that Bruce Lee wore in Enter the Dragon in one
Ah,
of the most famous scenes where he says, "Don't think, feel."
so that's the one in the beginning where Laos time.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Okay.
what makes that scene so famous is that he speaks philosophy, he practices or he demonstrates his kung fu,
Mm-hmm.
and you hear his voice, and it's just everything just put together makes that scene classic.
Right.
Um,
Wow.
so yeah, so I had ordered the catalog in 1993, and we booked a flight to Beverly Hills because that's where the auction was, and like I said before, I wanted to bid in person, not on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife would ask me, "Well, Jeff, what are you planning on buying?" So, so I think that point made a lot of collectors not able to go because they couldn't even tell their wife that oh, I'm planning to bid
Bruce.
on this item or this item, and their wife said, "Yeah, you're out of your mind." But but, but my wife is very supportive.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I was just thinking something small,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe Bruce's tie
Or a
or
business card or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
something small. Um, but it was scary because I looked around me. Well, here's Lynn and Shannon sitting right in front of me.
Oh wow.
I never met them, and then here's a lot of people in business suits. So I said, these people don't look like collectors.
Yeah.
They look like heavy investors.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I said to myself, good luck. So the very first item is what got me the most scared. It was a mug cup that
Okay.
was made by a fan, and it didn't even belong to Bruce Lee, but for some reason they stuck it into the auction. It was the very first item, and
Really?
that handmade mug cup from a fan, the winning bid was $595. So,
$595 for a
yeah,
mug?
yep, yep, for a
What?
mug, and I say, uh-oh. So yeah, so
How much do I have again?
yeah, I got to have enough money to be able to get home. So the Enter the Dragon stuff was not in the beginning.
Okay.
They were having mostly his essays, his photographs, and
Hmm.
this and that. And then I was getting more nervous and more nervous because I knew the End of the Dragon stuff was coming. And then the first time my wife found out that I was interested in an Enter the Dragon item is when the cat suit came up.
Mm.
So when it was at 3,000, they said going once, going twice, and then I raised up my paddle, and then Julie looked at me and says, "What?" So so once you bid,
That's what you have to pay.
yeah, and you're hoping, please, no one else bid or whatever. So it ended up me and this other guy in the room.
Okay.
But then this guy on the phone came on. So it was the
All
three of
three of
us.
you.
Yeah. And then um, when it hit 9,000, then Julie pulled down my
No,
arm.
that's it. No more.
Yeah. So then she looked at me and goes, she didn't have to say anything. It's almost like, are you out of your mind?
It's one of those non-verbal.
Yeah,
Don't do that again.
yeah,
Stop.
yeah,
Stop. What are
yeah,
you doing? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So so lo and behold, the very next item was the blue suit from
All
Enter the
right.
Dragon, and and I kept saying to myself, I actually liked the blue suit more than the cat suit, because when I was there during the preview, where
Right.
you could sign up to look at certain things, when you hold up that cat suit, it just looks like some stretchy black suit
Wait.
that,
You physically held it in your hand?
yeah, see,
Really?
that's the crazy part, is that they actually, all you have to do was sign a paper and then write down which items you want them to bring out for you to see, because of course they want you to buy it
Right.
at in the auction. So yeah, so they didn't tell us to wear gloves, or they didn't, I heard some people, when they were looking at the uh Kato hat, that a
Yeah.
lot of people wore it on their head.
Oh
And then I'm
no.
thinking, boy,
No.
did you wash your hair?
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah. So,
What?
yeah. So um that's the way the auction gallery did it. But I didn't mind, because I got to hold a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. So
Okay.
so I'm holding the black cat suit, and then I'm, it's one of those things that if you hold it up and you ask someone who wore this in what movie, they would say, well, that kind of looks like a cat burglar suit, and they wouldn't even think of Bruce Lee. But if you're holding the Chinese kung fu outfit, it is instantly recognizable.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm actually glad that I didn't get the cat suit. So
Okay.
all right. So so when it hit about, okay, this is the advice that I was given by a friend, how to do an auction.
Mhm.
You wait for them. No, if you want something, you don't tell anybody, because if you tell them, they said, "Hey, Jeff's interested
Now
in
they're
that.
interested in it.
Yeah, must be good."
Yeah.
So you stay mum. And when the item comes up, and you wait for them to say going once, going twice, and then you raise it. Okay. So for the blue suit, I raised it at 4,000.
Okay.
And then it got to me and, once again, me and a guy in the room, back and forth.
Right.
And then it got to the person on the phone. So it was
Oh.
me and the guy on the phone. And here's a part that I didn't tell you, is that I was actually videoing the whole thing. I'm like videoing and bidding. And the auctioneer actually says, hurry up, the guy might be running out of film. All right. So everyone in the audience knew who I was. I was the camcorder guy.
Right.
So they were actually rooting for me. So when it was going back and forth, and finally when it hit 7,000, he
Seven
said,
thousand dollars.
going once, going twice, and before he said going three times, it felt like half an hour. I said, come on. And then he said, going three times. So to the man with a camcorder. So I was jumping up, filming, and I panned the audience, and they're all clapping me.
All right, Jeff.
So I have it, recorded for my grandkids to see one day. So,
Oh, wow. That's a great story.
right,
Wow.
all right.
Uh,
And then people ask me, well, who was the guy on the phone that that outbid you for the cat suit and drove up the price for the blue suit? It was Planet Hollywood.
Really?
Believe it or not. And I sometimes joke. I go, well, maybe the guy from Planet Hollywood had to go to the bathroom or something. Right, right. So because after the blue suit was a brown suit from
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Dragon, and Planet Hollywood got that too. So yeah, and of course I think somehow Bruce wanted me to have this.
Oh, man. Okay, so now I know that you donated that suit.
Mhm.
Where did you donate that to or have it displayed?
All right. So okay, so here's a problem with having an item such as that.
Right.
When people come over, they said, "Can I see the suit? Can I hold the suit?"
Right.
And I think the final straw is when someone went like this, and I said, "What are
What
you
are you
doing?"
doing?
He said, I went to see how the suit smelled." So so I said, "Oh, okay."
What the?
So after that incident, I told Julie that it's just too risky because we're just manhandling the suit,
Yeah.
and it's made out of silk, it's old, so I basically just put it into an acid-free box and didn't
Yes.
show anyone. And then as a collector, the the one thing that you love doing is sharing with other people,
Yes.
but I couldn't share the suit. So in 1997, Warner Brothers called me up and they said, "We heard that you have the Enter the Dragon suit." And I said, "Yeah, yes." Um, they said, "We would like to borrow it for our Warner Brothers Studio Museum." And I'm thinking to myself, wait, you're Warner Brothers, you co-produce Enter the Dragon.
Right.
Don't you have a single thing on Bruce Lee?
Yeah.
Don't you even have one of those white wooden chairs or or
Right.
that flag or anything? They basically told me that, Jeff, this is embarrassing, but in '73, we didn't think that highly of Bruce. We
Oh
didn't
my
know that he
God.
would make Enter the Dragon as the classic martial arts movie of all time. So we didn't
Oh,
say
their thoughts were
anything.
wrong.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they were very humble and said, we're embarrassed by this fact,
Hmm.
but would you be willing to loan us a suit for our museum? And then I kind of hesitated, and then they said, we'll send you and your wife Julie to Burbank to visit the studios, and then we'll give you a tour, and after that you can decide. So when we went there, I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to Warner Brothers.
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, it's a first class museum.
Right.
The way they take care of everything is not like you're gonna have to worry about it.
Yeah.
That, oh, are they gonna lose it or whatever? So I said, okay, I'll loan the suit, and that way I can fulfill my obligation of sharing it with people,
Yeah.
and it will be perfectly protected.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
I
people
said,
won't smell it or anything.
yeah, 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 yeah. Well, either smell it or try it on.
Oh my gosh. Oh, Lord.
So so when I brought them the suit, I I actually joked to them that I actually wore it twice.
Did you?
Yeah, and then and then they said, uh-uh, don't ever do that again. I go, but I took a shower. They said, even if you take a shower, the oils from your body
Yeah.
will get on the suit, and that will
Yeah.
cause deterioration.
Yeah.
So yeah, so they said, yeah, don't try a stunt like that anymore. I said, well, how long do you guys want the suit? They said, well, we'll have it for a year and see how it's how popular it's going to be.
Hmm.
So it became one of the most popular items in the museum.
Of course.
So they extended it 1 year, 2 year, and I kind of lost count, but they borrowed the suit for 15 years.
Get out of here. 15 years?
Yeah, yeah. People would ask me, "Don't you miss the suit?" And I said, "Well, I wore it twice." So, yeah, so they said, "Jeff, well, we can't pay you, but we'll work out something." So I said, "All
Okay.
right." So what they worked out is that for each year that I display the suit, they're going to give me um, 10 photos of my choice from the original negatives
Really?
from Enter the Dragon. So every year they would ask me, "Did you want to pick the pictures yet?" And I go, "No, no, I'll just wait." So actually, I never picked the pictures until after the 15 years. So 15 times 10 is 150 photos.
Wow.
So how I got to choose is that they gave me copies of the contact sheet, you know,
Okay.
of all the shots by Dave Friedman.
Yep.
And, I would look at them and write down the number, because each photo would have a number underneath.
Yes.
And then I would give them, my list. And they said, "Well, how big do you want them?" So, they were assuming that I would say 8 by 10,
Yeah.
but I got greedy. I said, "I want them 11 by 14 full frame."
Whoa,
So, all
Jeff.
right. So when you went to the Hong Kong Heritage Museum,
Uh-huh.
you saw those walls of photos. That's from
Oh,
Warner Brothers.
really? I thought
Yeah,
that was, oh, wow,
yeah, yeah,
Jeff. Good
yeah,
thinking, man. Good
yeah,
thinking.
yeah. And then each photo is stamped on the back, Warner Brothers, and it has the code and everything. So
Wow. What was your favorite Bruce Lee movie?
okay, my favorite Bruce Lee movie is The Way of the Dragon. Of all the Bruce Lee movies, this one he directed, choreographed, wrote, you know, the the whole thing.
The whole shebang.
And then even though his character is kind of like a country bumpkin,
Mm-hmm.
um, you see the real Bruce
Yes.
Lee.
Yeah.
The way he jokes around, the way he moves, um, the fact that the movie had humor.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have to say that the dub cut up version makes Bruce Lee look stupid,
Yeah.
because the original version, Bruce Lee didn't speak English, and then he goes to Rome and he doesn't understand the language. So every single scene where he couldn't understand, they had to cut out. So it made Bruce Lee look like he was like special needs, or I don't know.
Yeah. I know, because remember there was a scene was like, you tell him, and this is the English version. You say, you tell him this and this and this. And then I'm like, why can't you tell him? You're speaking English, but you're telling him to tell him what you're saying.
Yeah.
And then I first, obviously, I knew that it was dubbed,
Mhm.
but I didn't know that there was a Cantonese version of it until very later on.
Yeah.
And then when I heard there was a Cantonese version of it, I'm like, I want to see it. I want to hear, because I thought that it was in Bruce's voice, but it's
Mhm.
not.
No.
But then in the Cantonese version, it actually syncs up of what he was what Bruce was saying,
Mhm.
within all the other actors. And then I read somewhere that all the English uh, speaking parts that was non-Chinese in that movie, that was Bruce's voice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Even the African American guy that's
yeah, African
Chinese
American
spare
guy.
ribs.
Yeah, the Chinese spare ribs. So, out of all the Bruce Lee events that you went to, which one was your favorite?
I don't know if you could call it an event,
Hmm.
but it's but the most one of the most exciting things to happen to me in terms of Bruce Lee is when they had the grand opening of my exhibit in Hong Kong.
Hmm.
Um, I was waiting in the museum because I heard that a few reporters would be coming, and then Julie ran down the hall and said, "Jeff, 35." And I said, what do you mean 35? She goes, 35 reporters from all over are coming over to interview you. So I
Wow.
said, uh-oh. So I was saying to Bruce that I need you now. Because, you know,
Projecting. I was like,
yeah,
Bruce,
yeah,
help,
yeah,
Bruce,
yeah,
help me. This, I
yeah,
need you now.
yeah, yeah. And then
Interesting.
it was kind of fun because I could tell there are certain reporters that can't stand each other.
Really?
They're all trying to, you know, shove the mic in my face and kind of not.
Oh, they're nudging. Get out of my
Yeah,
way.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Oh, wow, wow. Interesting.
yeah.
Now, I see you're wearing a Wing Chun shirt from a
Hmm.
school. Tell me about that. Are you doing Wing Chun?
Yes. Well, when I first started collecting, when I was 12 years old, of course we all wanted to be like Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
So of course you wanted to take martial arts lessons, but my parents basically told me, you know, we give you an allowance. You could spend it on magazines or posters, or you could pay for lessons. So of course I said I'll buy the magazines and posters, and I'll teach myself. So yeah, 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 yeah. So, but then
Self-taught. Hey, some people do that, you know?
yeah, yeah. But you know, as we know, if you really want to be proficient at martial arts, you can't learn it from a book.
Yeah.
You need to get
Instructor.
an instructor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't until 2005 at the age of 44 that I saw this show on TV called Bay Area Backroads, and
Okay.
they said here's a Wing Chun school in my neighborhood, and I said, okay, if I'm gonna learn, I'm gonna learn now, you know, because like I said, the school was just like maybe uh, half a mile
Okay.
from my house. So the thing I did not know is that the Sifu was like a bully. Um,
Really?
just imagine Cobra Kai,
Ah.
but a Wing Chun version, because
Oh
this
boy.
guy, yeah, this guy would encourage students to fight, hurt people, and you know
Oh no.
just cause a ruckus. And you
No.
know, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, I just started here, but you know, I don't want to hurt anyone. I just want to learn the art, and I want to learn how to defend myself. So I kind of endured in that school maybe like a year and a half, and I said
Okay.
I just can't take it anymore. And then when it was Bruce Lee's 70th birthday
Okay.
back in 2010,
Mm-hmm.
Linda and Shannon asked me to give the tours of Chinatown. Um, and I was, of course, as a Bruce Lee fan, you of course say yes.
Of
Oh,
course.
except I only had like two or three places in
It's
my
like here, here,
repertoire.
and here. That's it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. The place he was born, the this and that. So I had remembered my dad one day mentioned that when he was at a card game,
Hmm.
that there was a guy from San Jose that knew Bruce Lee, and then he gave me his phone number, but I never called him.
Huh.
I said, hey, maybe I should call this guy because that guy lives in the Bay Area. Maybe he might have some information about Bruce Lee locations. So
Right.
I called him, and then he had a lot of stuff that he remembered about Bruce Lee because his name's Ben Durr, and
Bender.
he came like a month, a few weeks or a month after Bruce Lee came to San Francisco in 1959. Um, so they were very close, and they were actually both students of Yip Man in Hong Kong. I found out that Sifu Bender had a son that also teaches Wing Chun, and he lives like very close to my house too.
Right.
So the son gave me a call and said, "Can I come over to visit your Bruce Lee room?" So I said, "Sure." So he came over with his students,
Right.
and then they gave me that same thing where they're saying, "Can I try out,
Yeah.
Chi
Touch
Chi
hands. Yeah.
whatever?" And then same thing. They said you're just using too much strength and you're too tense. And then I said, can I learn from you? So he said yes. So I joined that school in 2011. So this is like
Wow.
my 10th year. So
Wow.
this is
So what's the name of the school?
it's San Francisco Wing Chun, and
Now,
it's Francis Durr.
so I actually followed them on Facebook, and they have, I guess, something every Sunday. They do it on a rooftop.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because of COVID, my Sifu will share a video almost every Sunday,
Hmm.
and he basically goes over the very important basics of Wing Chun, which
Hmm.
is structure, position, um, relaxation,
Yeah.
sensitivity, which are very vital to Wing Chun.
Right.
Is something that I really look forward to continue training because I've seen people in their late 70s and they could beat mine to a pulp.
Well, it's always good to learn. I mean, I get a lot of calls and emails, and they ask me, how old do I have to be to learn Jeet Kune Do? He's like, well, I'm 55 years old. I wonder if it's too late. I'm like, listen, no one's going to care how old you are if someone tries to fight you in the street.
Very
The
true.
only the only thing that you have to do is to protect yourself, and that's the thing. And especially around this time when there's a lot of Asian hate and attacks. And I'm not saying learn martial arts, but all these attacks, no one cares how old you are. And obviously, the elderly in the beginning were getting victimized, they were getting attacked.
Mhm.
And now it doesn't matter now. It's anybody is getting attacked. It doesn't matter how old you are. So, I get a lot of, I got a call asking to do a seminar because of the Asian hate,
Hmm.
of what's going on. And
Mhm.
I was happy to say yes, because no matter if you're Asian, no matter if you're white, black, everybody needs self-protection,
Mhm.
and at least just to survive a fight, because you may never know. And especially, like I said, around this time, it's on the all-time high, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, just to lower down the stress level because when you're out in the street and you know that you have no means to defend yourself, it
Hmm.
gets very stressful.
Oh yeah.
But if you knew something and you knew that you could protect yourself,
Yeah.
that that gives you a sense of confidence.
Okay, Jeff, tell me, Be Water, the documentary, how did
Mhm.
that come about?
Okay, the director Bao Win
Hmm.
was in town and he's asked if he could visit the Bruce Lee room. So I said sure, and he was when I was giving him a tour, he was telling me about his documentary because this is before they started doing it.
Hmm.
But I was very interested because he said it's going to be coming from an Asian American lens.
Okay.
Um, 99.9 of all the Bruce Lee documentaries beforehand have been made by the Caucasian view of Bruce.
Hollywood. Yeah.
Yeah, Hollywood.
Yeah.
So he said, yeah, this will be very, very different. And then, and I shared my personal story and I shared these instances in my life. And he told me, Jeff, I really want you in the documentary.
Hmm.
But he said, there might be a little problem. And I said, what's that? He goes, the producer only wants people that knew Bruce Lee.
Boy.
I mean, it's almost like I knew Bruce Lee because I was born in the same hospital.
Of course. Hey, you're like brothers, you know?
Yeah. So he said, Jeff, let me work on the producer and see what we could do. So after some convincing, he actually got me on,
Wow.
and so the whole crew came over to not just interview me, but they were using a lot of my memorabilia because you could see it throughout the documentary.
Hmm.
They would show stuff.
Wow.
and and it wasn't until let's see, the very end that he said, you know, he was so sorry that they put my interview on the cutting room floor.
Oh boy.
But you know, that happens a lot when you're filming things and
Of
you could
course,
film
yeah.
hours and hours of scenes and then it just didn't make the final cut.
Mhm.
But you know, I always joke to people, I'll just wait for the director's cut.
Now, Jeff, you were though featured at the end, right? At the credits?
Yeah, yeah. So because Bao had felt so bad, he said, Jeff, I have a surprise for you at the very end. And I go, what is it? He goes, I won't tell you. I don't want to spoil the surprise. So when Be Water came out, you know, me and my family all went to my parents' house with my brothers and sisters, and we're all watching the world premiere on ESPN 30
Hmm.
for 30. And then, you know, of course, in the back of my mind, I kept thinking, okay, what are they going to show
Right.
at the end? So during the credits, they showed an interview that I did during that time when I was in Hong Kong in 2015.
Mm.
It was actually by Al Jazeera TV,
Mm.
and yeah, so they used clips from that, and even though it was brief, at least it was something.
Wow.
And they also acknowledged me in the credits too, because to be honest, I actually helped them quite a bit during post production
Right.
because they had a lot of problems and questions about footage, about identifying this and that.
Right.
They actually had a 30-second clip of Kato and the Green Hornet that must have shown like it felt like 40 different scenes.
Right.
And they said 20th Greenway Productions once vowed to identify every second of the clip. So I had to go through all 26 episodes and try to identify, all right, this is from this episode, this is from that
Oh, wow.
but yeah, so I helped quite a bit in the making of the
Oh. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for being on my podcast. I truly enjoyed the stories. Um, I have this thing on the podcast. It's called The Last Word. If you have anything to share before we get off the podcast, it could be about Bruce Lee, it could be not about Bruce Lee. Is there any type of last words do you have for the podcast?
um, just that we're coming up with a Bruce exhibit in San Francisco Chinatown, and it was slated for November 2021,
Hmm.
and it's going to be like a 5-year exhibit. But at this point, because we don't know about the COVID situation, that it might be postponed until February of 2022. We're we're trying to make the exhibit different, being that we're trying to use Bruce Lee um, during the current situation about Asian hate. That you know, Bruce was a strong Asian male. That of course no one would pick on him.
Yeah,
And but the most important thing is that Bruce Lee brought people together
yeah.
of all different races. And if if our exhibit can help with that, then you know we're all going to be better off. And you know, I'm just proud to be able to loan and help out with the exhibit, and I hope that many of you out there can come to support us.
Jeff, thank you so much for this podcast. I known you for a very long time, and all the time that we see each other, it's very mandatory that we always take a picture together in your Wing
Yeah.
Chun stance and in my Jeet Kune Do stance. And yeah, I've been close to you and to your wife Julie. I remember you and me discussed about this a long time ago that we're very lucky
Oh
to
yeah.
have wives that understand our passion and understand that, you know, we love Bruce because he brought the best out of us.
Yeah, and we wouldn't be where we are now without our wives.
That's very true. Very
Yeah.
true. Okay.
One biggest example that I would like to share about Julie is that when we went to the Brucey auction, and I was downstairs talking with all the fans and whatever, she was upstairs saving me a seat for like 3 hours.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that's love there.
Yeah.
That's love there.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Jeff, thank you for being on the podcast, and hopefully we'll do another episode like this again. All right.
Well, I really enjoyed it, and thank you for having me.